Hi there, my name is Bruce Bishop. I'm coming to you from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. And today I have author RIANA Everley talking to me from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And RIANA is perhaps primarily a historical fiction romance author, but she will explain more of that shortly. And her latest release, I'll try to share the screen with you now, is called A Brush with Love at Brookview Hall. And let me just share that picture. You can see it there, a lovely cover with a period gentleman. I guess again, RIANA, can you can tell me later what the type of costuming or dress that the artist is wearing. But this book, it's part of a 9-book series, from what I understand, with 6 other authors that's called Noble Hearts Historical Romance. Can you give us like a brief synopsis of Brookview Hall and where and when it is set?
Yes, we have had so much fun with this series. It is a set of independent novels linked with very broad underlying themes. It's historical, they're all set in great houses, anywhere, most in England, some in the States. It would be fun to do one in Canada. I've got 2 books in this series, and Brookview Hall, which you just mentioned, is my second of the 2. It's brand new. It's just a week old, so I'm very excited about it. I've got a copy. Here it is. Um, and this story is set in Cornwall in England in 1823. So it's just post-Regency. George IV is on the throne. He doesn't figure in this. This is out in the wilds of Cornwall with you know, rocky coves and mysterious caves and smugglers. And in all of this, there's this great estate, Brookview Hall, and my heroine, Julia, is a governess. Now, this isn't a Jane Eyre governess, and her employer is no Rochester. She's there, she's managing the 5 children that she has to teach. She's very in control. She needs to be. She desperately needs this job. She's not strict, she's stern. It's ABCs, reading, writing, arithmetic, no room for anything crazy or wild. It's all about control. And then into her world bursts this chaotic, dashing, romantic artist, like a painter. He's been hired by the father of the children to teach art to the kids. But he's also in Cornwall to paint landscapes. He wants to mount an exhibit in London, and he decides, part as well as the landscapes, he needs portraits, and he wants to paint Julia. So as he paints her, as they talk, they form this friendship, and you can see where that's going. But she wonders, she begins to wonder, is he involved with the smugglers? There's stuff going on, and she finds little clues here and there. And she really begins to wonder just how innocent he is. And then she, of course, has her own secrets that if they come out, they could just upend her whole world. So that is what's happening while this friendship is
Awesome.
tentatively turning into something more.
Ah, and no spoilers here.
No spoilers.
That's great. Wow. Um, you've got an astounding, what is it, 15 novels published in total. And how much of all those titles have been published traditionally, like that is with a traditional publisher, or either independently or hybrid?
I haven't done anything hybrid.
Okay.
Most of my books are independent. I do have a few put out by a traditional publisher, and they've also published some of my short stories in anthologies. And I have to say, my publisher's been fabulous. You hear horror stories about publishers, and these guys have been amazing. They're called Romance Cafe Press from New Zealand. Not a complaint. That said, I prefer publishing independently.
Mm,
I like the control I have. I control my own voice. I control my covers. I control my release dates. I control my spelling. It seems silly, but a lot of publishers say we're an American press, we need the US spellings, or this is a British press, we need British spellings. I tend to use British spellings because most of my books are set in England, but it's my choice.
mhm,
And while a publisher will have a wider reach than I do as an individual, they also take part of my royalties.
mhm.
So I can't, it comes out as a wash for me. So all said, I prefer independent publishing. That said, if Penguin comes knocking, I'm answering the door.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think that's probably the feeling of most indie authors that we love the control. We love being able to decide when and where and how much
Mhm.
marketing is required or needed. But yeah, if a big one of the big five came along, then sure, we would
Maybe
not
call in. Yeah.
ignore them. Yeah. So you do prefer the independent or
Yes.
indie publishing.
Yes.
Um, let's say you, and I'm sure you have at book shows and book fairs and that sort of thing, if you're talking to an aspiring romance author, would you recommend that person go and try to query the traditional publishers first, or go right and learn about independent publishing?
I think that would very much depend on the personality of the author. Um, if you have the stick-to-itiveness, the guts, the drive to find an agent, to query the agents, to have them go through that whole process, and if you're willing to wait the years and years that it might take between first query and maybe seeing your book on a shelf,
Mm,
if you're willing to do that, go for it. As I
yeah.
say, we'd all love to see, the big publisher name on our books, but if you want your book out there, I would recommend at least giving it a shot. Indie books
Mhm.
are not looked down on as they once were. We all know now that it's not a mark of quality being published by a big name or doing it yourself. We have excellent, excellent books being put out independently, and quite honestly, some very mediocre books being put out by some rather well-known publishers.
Right. Yeah. It's amazing how the status of indie authors has gone up, as you say, over the past few years because the quality is just as good, if not better, than some traditionally published books. And certainly because we meaning independent authors, have such a vested interest. I think we do tend to um, take care of those books maybe a little bit more than an agent and a publisher might. The subtitle on your website, I really like this. It says romance and historical romance with a Canadian twist. So I need to know what this twist is, and are any of the books set in Canada?
I love this country and I love dropping bits and pieces in when I can. Now, to be quite honest, most of my books are set in the general world of Jane Austen's novels, so those necessarily take place in England. That said, I drop Canada in when I can. The second book that I published, called The Assistant, takes place. It's a prequel to Pride and Prejudice, but a lot of it takes place in Halifax, which is a city I love visiting in
Right.
the in the year 1800, when the city is pretty new. But anyone who knows Halifax will recognize some of the locations in the novel. Um, Also, I have a historical mystery series. Right now it's in England, but I have dreams as the series progresses. I want my characters to move to Montreal. This will be 1820s, Montreal in 1820s must have been a fascinating place. You've still got the British regulars stationed there, but you've got English, you've got French, you've got Americans, you've got First Nations, you've got people coming in from all over the world. I mean, it's a fabulous place to set a mystery series, I think. I've got a modern series that is set in Toronto. It's contemporary, set in the classical music world in Toronto, as well as a standalone retelling of Austen's Persuasion, set in the classical musical world in Toronto. And as a classical musician living in Toronto, it's home for me, both in a literal sense, but also in a metaphorical sense. The orchestras, the choirs, the music, and the city that I reluctantly over the years have really come to love. It's a
Right.
fabulous place to live. And I've also got the yet unpublished historical novel set in the Niagara region immediately after the War of 1812, while they're still rebuilding. Um, a lot of destruction, and they had to rebuild the whole area as well as the government. And I've got a personal connection to Niagara. My husband's family was has been in the area since the late 1700s. One of his great great grandparents sat in the first Parliament of Upper Canada in Niagara. The family goes to haunts an inn in Niagara, so it's personal. It's also a beautiful part of the country.
Wow. I don't know when you find time to sleep with with that many projects and series on the go, but good on you. That's amazing. I'm definitely going to read the one set in Toronto because I lived in Toronto for 25 years and still consider that my second home. And I must remember also to pick up the assistant. Did you say the one that's set in Halifax? Because that's where I currently live. Um, you are a South African by birth, but you've been in Canada for many years, right?
Yeah, since I was a child.
Pardon me?
Since I was a child, yes. I grew up in Edmonton out west.
Okay.
And since then I've lived in Montreal, Calgary, and now Toronto. So
And that is obviously a very good overview of living in different parts of Canada and getting to know, what the regions are truly like. Um, I obviously just from what you said, you're in the midst of writing a couple of different new books or manuscripts. But as we're kind of running down on time here, where can people buy your books, and what would you say is the I guess the easiest, best way to buy them?
my books are all available at Amazon. Many are on Kindle Unlimited, which limits them to Amazon. But some of them you can get through other e-retailers such as Indigo. So look up my name and you can see what's out there.
And it's Rihanna Everly, Everly, right?
Correct.
And in the remaining minute I've got, I'm going to try to call up that image from Amazon to show those watching them. Now, this is only a seven of the 15 books that shows that is seen right here. So, but anyway, that's your Amazon author page. And Rihanna, thanks again so much for coming on.
Thank
This is kind of an experiment for me. You and I have known each other online for a couple of years, and we've met in person in Halifax, which was wonderful. So, thanks again, and best of luck on the new
Thank
the
you.
new novel.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.